You're listening to another episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is the place we're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
That's his favorite part of the show.
All right.
You literally told me to do that.
Did I? No, I don't.
I'm just kidding.
Okay, I mean, I enjoy it. You and I remember Ed McMahon, or maybe your younger audience would. That's what I relate him to. Busy day for you, huh, Chief?
Always.
That's good. Well, you know, that's good to know. I guess, is it good to know that you're busy? I mean, we don't
Depends
know.
on.
A big crime wave hitting
Always
the town.
depends,
Yeah, okay. I don't think we got to worry about that. But we have Chief Billy Cordell here. He's going to tell us all what's going on, not just with the active shooter training that they just finished. I have some interest in that, certainly, and also about the new hire there, a friend of yours from Fort Worth, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Kurt Brannon. We'll talk a little about that program and maybe a little about him. I know he's been around a long time. Also, the training center. We talk about that, and then whatever else that comes to your mind, sir. Yeah. So, but it's been a busy day here too, and it's going to be a busy month. And September has a lot of charity things going on, so I'll be busy with that, and that's going to be good. All right, I'm tired though. I was up late last night, got up early this morning. All right, anyway, let's talk about the sponsors, okay? And we got to say goodbye to one of them today, and we're going to say hello to two more. But first of all, Daniel of CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire. Thank you for all you do for us and the business that you provide and the service you provide the community in other ways than just a good workout facility. But it has workout programs, trainers, supervisors. It's a safe environment. You don't make many calls there, I hope.
I hope not. I hope not.
Because they're pretty fit. They could probably handle themselves. All right. But anyway, CrossFit Burleson. Also, Shandy Stogsdill. Say it right, the Stogsdill Group. I still kind of stumble over that. Stogsdill Group. If you're moving into this area, you need to talk to her because she knows what the real estate is. There's a lot of real estate that's being bought and sold that doesn't even come on the market, and she's able to help you with all of that. So you want to check her, certainly, with that. So check out her page at the Stogsdill Group. Also, we have to say goodbye to our friend Rex Russell, the Russell Wealth Group. This will be his last day. Apparently, the SEC requirements are getting to the point now where these kind of independent advertisements are going to be more and more hassle, and it's typical government bureaucracy. So thank you, Mr. Biden. You cost me some money. But anyway, that's okay. Russell Wealth Group, thank you, Rex, for your sponsorship. Still, I would highly recommend them if you need them as a financial advisor. So check out myfinancialbox.com and get to know them and let them help you with your retirement plans. But thank you, Rex, for your last 2.5 years of support, and I'm sure we'll be still in contact. Thank you to Our Place. We're going to change it up a little bit. I got a couple new sponsors. We're kind of redoing it. Our Place, I was there yesterday. I know you probably hang out there, don't you, Chief?
Yes.
Yeah, everybody goes there. It's a good place to go. It's quiet, good service, great food. And you can sit on that patio, and it's just a good, relaxing place to have lunch, brunch, and/or breakfast. So thank you, Our Place in Otto. Thank you to Wild Cigar and Culture. Now, when you go in there, do you go in there with your badge on or off?
I do not go in there.
You don't want to scare them
No fault
off?
of theirs. It's just not my deal.
No, but it's a good place to go. I've been there a few times, and it's not a place it's not like some biker joint. It's really nice,
right?
And got a great humidor, and it's do a little business there. I've been there in the afternoons, and there's people doing business there. It's a good place to do all this stuff. Also, lastly, Tiffany Griffin. I hope she's still on her honeymoon. She got married last Saturday, and it was a really, really nice wedding, very sweet. And you probably know Jimmy Nico, I would imagine. Yeah. And they make a great couple. And the daughters were involved and had dogs involved bringing down the flowers or something like that. It was just really, really fun. Local Life TX is up right now. The new magazine will be probably at next week. And it's a great place to advertise. 30,000 is what I meant. 30,000 subscribers, and also 110,000. That's where I got the number from. You see this daily. I mean, I go by and it's like Our Place or other stores, and they're on the counter or on the coffee table or whatever else. Taylor, have you got me hooked up on the Facebook yet? I haven't seen it.
We're live. I'll send you a link.
All right, send me a link. I just don't see it, but it's Facebook. It's Zuckerberg is jealous. Where should we start? Wow. Let's talk about the SRO and this active school training. I saw some pictures on Facebook and other clips of the active training that you did during the in-service.
Right.
That I know that was suspended during COVID because we weren't in school and all the other issues with COVID. But y'all have been doing this now a couple more years, the last couple of years.
Yes.
It's not the same routine, though. I mean, don't you take what's been happening in the real world and try to apply them to your training programs?
Yeah, that's the nature of what we do. You know, you're always going to have to adapt, whether it's policies, procedures, where it's actions. When you go back and look in 1999 at Columbine, the response to that school shooting was under the criteria at that time. And of course, now you don't wait; you go right straight in, and you know, whether you got one person or you got four, four is optimal. But you know, you're going in one if you have to.
Right, but it sounds like, you know, that this is a constant thing. This isn't like, okay, we got that out of the way. Right. It isn't like a fire drill for this. We know, okay, good, we're done for that for a while. No, this is a constant thing. And if you had something that was, that was going on in the real world, then, you'd make those adjustments. I told you the story before how I was at school one time a few years ago when I was still employed at BHS about basically being asked to leave because they were going to have active shooter training. And so it was, I was glad to see it. I really was. When y'all do your security issues with schools and whatever else, do y'all like come by on in-service days or other opportunities for teachers or on a particular campus basis, or is that something you leave to BISD?
Well, we work closely with BISD. I've said many times we're great partners with them, and we're joined at the hip for the safety of these students, teachers, and staff. So we work together on the locations. We try to train in different schools so that we've got a different footprint at a school. This time we trained at the old Kerr because they're going to be remodeling some of that, and we were able to do some simunition training, some live training that really solidifies, any kind of scenario-based training outside of the classroom is something that solidifies the tactics in your mind. So on that particular training, we have not done the training, as you said, because of COVID in a couple of years. And in a couple of years, there's a lot of new people within our facility. We've hired additional people. So it's always good to circle back around, get on the same page to make sure that we all know how we're responding, what the expectations are. So this year we put together a 16-hour training course on top of all of our other training that we've had in the past. And we brought in the fire department to be a part of that because of the rescue task force piece of that. But we had a combination of classroom where we talk about tactics, talk about changes, talk about the expectations, and then in the afternoon we would go out there and put those maneuvers in place and train, learn from our mistakes. That's where you want to make mistakes. That's where you want to learn for safety and what we're doing. We actually did some different things this time, and when you look at what happened in Uvalde, one of the question marks that's out there was that they didn't have a key to get into the room, and I'm not here to debate whether they did or they didn't, but they were looking for breaching tools, and we've gone back and bought the breaching tools to put on our patrol vehicles because SWAT has all that. SWAT's trained for that, but it's probably going to be one of our SROs or one of our patrol officers that's there immediately, and if that becomes an obstacle, we've got to eliminate that obstacle so they can get in and do what they need to do. So
now
training.
There's a difference between SRO and SSO, so why don't you describe that difference?
Yeah. So SRO, that's a school resource officer. They are part of BPD. They're a full BPD officer, and that's an assignment that they volunteer to go over to, and we put them and engage them in a school. They go through additional training. I think it's 80 hours, if I remember right, of training that they go to on
that's
how
a
to.
Bunch. I mean, that's 2 weeks.
Yeah, to get in that position and how they handle the gap in what the school's policies, what the school does, and how we do what we do, and blend all of that together so it's seamless. So that's a school resource officer. Again, they're a BPD officer, just like every other BPD officer, and that's an assignment that they're put into. Now the SSO, this is a new path that you've got within the schools, and BISD just hired their first SSO, which is a school safety officer. So they've done something rather unique over there, and we're watching to see how all that plays out. So they've got a school safety officer that's going to be in each of their elementary campuses. That's 10 campuses. One of those is over on Oak Grove. That's Brock Elementary. It's actually in Fort Worth city limits, but it's a BISD school, so they'll have an SSO assigned to that campus once they can get everybody hired.
Well, and the first one was hired just this week, Brannon, which is a well-known Burleson figure. and a colleague of yours from Fort Worth. Why don't you tell me about him?
Well, I'll tell you what, that was a great hire on their part. As you said, he's lived in Burleson for 35 years. His kids came up through Burleson schools. I think you had
I had
one
Jacob,
that you
yes.
taught, who Jacob now is a robbery detective in Fort Worth. He is was a drill sergeant in the Army and then got into law enforcement at Fort Worth Police Department, and he was up in homicide, working homicide almost my entire career of the 30 years I was there.
You talking about Kurt, right?
Kurt.
Okay,
yes.
good.
So I had the pleasure of going over to homicide in the early
That's
2000s.
another way of putting it, though, isn't it? I had the pleasure of going to homicide.
Yeah. So I went up to that unit. Let's put it that way. I went up to the unit. How about that? And work right side by side with that entire crew, Kurt being one of them, and really got to know who he was, the character. Saw how he treats people with dignity and respect. I mean, he may be dealing with a homicide suspect up there, and he'll treat that person with the same dignity and respect as he treated his colleagues or myself. It speaks a lot to his character. He's got a lot of skill sets. When you look at, he's a 9th degree black belt. He's got a lot of credentials that back him up. And I will say this about him. He contacted me before he applied and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about this." And we talked about it a while, and I just can't think of a finer person to lead that effort over there and to protect children. And let's be clear on what his role is to protect children. He told me, actually, he said, I was going to reach out to you before this program came up, and I was going to reach out to you and talk to you about the elementary school that I live very close to. He said, I'm just concerned, and I want to talk to BISD about me just sitting out in the parking lot to make sure that these kids are safe when they go in. And that's volunteering, and that's the person that you're getting with Kurt Brannon to go and start leading that group. And I'm just excited for him. I'm excited for BISD and what they're doing over there to help protect these kids.
How much role, if any, does BPD play in the hiring of these BISD employees?
Well, I mean, he and I are going to talk about that. He has expressed that he would like, representation, myself and or others from not only BPD but from the community and others. That's his role to put all of that together. But I told him we would help him in any way we can. We want to get him introduced to all of our SROs. That personal relationship, get that going and established, because that means so much. Then we'll hook him up with some of our, reemphasize our tactics, how we respond to things, to make sure that they know how we're going to respond, and making sure that we're all on the same page, because again, all of us are working extremely hard to make sure that these schools are safe for our children, and it's important for us to all be on the same page.
Well, Bill Janish has seconded your comment about Kurt Brannon. And that seems to be a pretty common opinion of Mr. Brannon, that he's a high-quality person and a high-quality hire. And I'm glad that we're having those type of people that are stepping up and doing that. As far as, I guess what I meant with the question is, it isn't like BISD has to go through like your approval personally of the SSOs. They may ask your opinion, but as far as like having a formal role in the hiring process, that's all on BISD, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
They're hiring them like they would their other staff members and they're their employees. But again, you're hiring a very unique skill set in having retired officers coming in there. And so I value, if he wants my opinion on something, I'm going to give him my opinion, because all of our roles is to get the best person we can in there that we know in these circumstances they're going to respond like we want them to respond to protect these kids.
Most of these SSOs, are they retired former officers?
I haven't seen the applications. I understand they've got around 150 applications, which is pretty incredible.
Exactly.
I had a retired Fort Worth officer reach out to me today. I've had several to ask about the program, and now that Kurt Brannon is hired, we can reroute them over to him. But it's been a good response, because they've got the pay where it needs to be, the duties of what they're wanting to do. They're outlining all of those. But they're really trying to put retired officers in there so that they've got somebody that has spent a lifetime in protection and service, and they know what they're going to get when they hire these folks.
What is the typical age of a police officer retirement?
Oh, gosh. Well, it depends on where you work and whether they have a 20 and out or a 25 and out.
Yeah.
Fort Worth had a 25 and an out. So, I was, mid-50s when I retired, but there's some of them that retired younger than that. You can stay, and enter into a drop and stay 30. I had 30 years of credit service when I left out there.
So we're not talking about like, some elderly old night watchman. We're talking about guys that are still active, fit, and maybe mid to late 50s on the average, I would imagine.
Yeah, I would think so.
So if you're out there thinking it's just going to be like a glorified, night security guy, no, these guys are legit in every sense of the word. And that's good to know that we're taking it that seriously and we're putting the money towards that. Yeah. And I think it's greatly to the credit of the school board and the system. I know they've been working on this for months, a long, long time, and I guess it's now ready to roll. And hopefully within a couple of years, every school will have somebody on it.
Yeah, I hope so as well.
While,
but here's the thing on it, Brad. Mm-hmm. In our profession, what we do, whether it's a BPD or whether it's going to be this SSO program, the important thing is to hire the right fit, right person for that.
Right.
Getting people in there just to get someone in there may work out well, but getting the fit that you're dealing with elementary students that can be great role models for those elementary students, somebody that has got the balance between what their new role is. It's not the same role as it was as a police officer. It's a different role, but learn that role and balance all of that together. So that's important to get the right fit.
Well, what qualification would one have to be one of these SSOs?
Well, I'm not sure what BISD is putting on there, but I mean, obviously, retired law enforcement, and they don't absolutely have to be retired. They could be former that decided I'm going to go into another way. Obviously, checking the background and who you're hiring to make sure that they are qualified for that and that they've got the right character and integrity is always something important in this type of business. But I think it speaks to, can you relate to kids? Can you bridge gaps there to make sure these kids realize you're there as their friend and it's not that stiff look of a police officer. You're high-fiving these kids and you're enjoying life and you're integrating in with the teachers and the staff so that they know who you are and what the expectation is for everybody's roles. So I mean, I think those are things that have got to be outlined, identified, and solidified through policy.
Right now, these SROs, though, are Burleson Police employees. Do you get volunteers, or are they voluntold that they're going to be SROs?
So far, I will say so far in my 8 years that I've been here that we have people that volunteer and apply for that. And I think another important piece of this is that the school board has approved, and we're waiting on council's approval coming up, that we're hiring 3 additional SROs that are going to bounce between the school districts. So not only are you going to have the SSOs, all these initials here, you're going to have 3 SROs that are going to bounce between our elementary schools as well to integrate into those schools and be tied and joined at the hip with the SOs.
When is that vote going to be taken?
I think September 6th is the first reading of it, and then the following would be a consent agenda. So if all those positions are approved, then we will, start looking toward the new positions and trying to get them hired and get them trained. It takes a while to do that.
Sure, it does. How many do we have right now?
Right now we have 8.
8 SROs?
8 full-time. One of them is a supervisor that works at STEAM, so we have 8 on the payroll now working in the secondary schools. We've got 2 in each of the high schools and 1 of each of the middle schools. We don't have in a couple schools like Collegiate and one other, and then we've got 10 elementaries. But these 3 that are coming on, their role is going to be bouncing between these elementary schools, and then we're going to set up a way that something happens at one school or another that we have positioned them close by so they can respond quickly to that, and that goes as well as our patrol officers that are on duty. And look, you get something going on in a school like that, every one of us, myself included, are headed to that school. Well,
and and think about it, when you think about these school emergencies, Uvalde is the first thing that comes to mind, but there's all sorts of things that happen in schools that require a police presence. An irate parent or a fugitive from the law. I remember a couple times they shut down BHS because of a situation down the street at the gas station. Yeah. And so, and all these other things. Or they had a shooting in the neighborhood nearby, and they shut it down because they didn't want somebody using the school as a hideaway place. So it doesn't just necessarily mean some psychopath with a big gun, whatever gun you want to put in there. But it's also a lot of just small things that maybe need a police presence for.
Right.
I don't remember it happening often, but there were 3 or 4 times in my career at BHS that a parent would come up there and there was a custody dispute kind of thing going on, and we wouldn't release the kid to the parent, and there was all sorts of commotion about that, and we had to get the police involved, and so there's all sorts of things. that need a police officer. And I'm really glad to see how far along we are. You were telling me earlier that this may be a kind of a pilot program for other school districts to follow.
Yeah, we, when they did the announcement on Mr. Brannon, they said this is the first time, program. This is a first of its kind, and it is a little unique. You've got the Guardian program, you've got the Marshal program, and this is kind of a balance between where you've got police officers in there. So we're going to see how it works. I mean, it's something that a lot of people are going to be watching just to see, how it integrates in there, how they integrate within the school system as well as BPD. And it's, I think it's just going to be a seamless event because that's typically how we work. It's going to be a seamless event to get in there and make sure that we're all on the same page and do what we're doing.
I think the people of Burleson should realize just how many times Burleson ISD has been used by other districts for other programs than just this. When I started at the high school, we had districts coming all over the state to copy the Talented and Gifted program, and then later the Advanced Placement program. And the Special Ed program often was asked to demonstrate what they do and how they do things and whatever else from other districts. They would come in and see how we handled things like that. And also with the dual enrollment early college program. Yeah. So, it's funny because we think of Burleson's kind of like a little hometown, but it's really been in a leading role in many of these type of programs across the state.
Yeah.
And so that's a pretty good thing.
School district does a lot of incredible things over there. And when you talk about our SROs that are in the schools, they integrate well. And I'll use a program when our sergeant, Bob Sherman, was assigned to STEAM Middle School. He's one of our drone pilots, as am I. So he went over there and started looking at the technology side of that and started a whole drone program over there that now is the Drone Academy, and we'll go over and fly with these kids and teach them how to do stuff. And this is an after-school program. But our SROs integrate into these schools beyond just being there for safety and security and a visible presence. They integrate in with these kids and become role models and interact with them and help them mentor whatever they do. And that's what makes our SROs so valuable in the schools.
Now, let's say we had an opening in SRO for whatever reason, retirement and whatnot, and you had these applicants for the position. What kind of questions do you ask the applicant?
Well, I mean, it's the same as we would anybody else, but you're tailoring it toward the school environment, and you got to be able to. They need to be able to adapt and understand. We're police officers. We're ready to go running in there and do what we do, but you're housing in a different entity's environment where that entity is in charge of that environment, except for when it comes to criminal violations. We don't go in and interact and say, okay, we're here to this child's having a bad day and the teacher won't come out from under the desk. That's for the school to do that, and we stay in our lanes. You hear me talking about that all the time. We stay in our lanes. If it's a criminal act or something like that we work, then we'll work with that. We'll work with the school on that to make sure that in the best interest of everyone, we've met the needs that we need to meet.
You're looking for a certain personality. Of compassion, but you want to be, consistent and firm and all that, but you also has a heart for children.
And they got to like kids.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to be up to your neck in kids. You got to love kids, right?
Well, Betty Arbor is thanks for your service, she says. Thank you for what you do. And
thanks,
she's Betty. You know Betty, I'm sure.
I do, yeah.
And she's very complimentary, and I appreciate her listenership. But, I would imagine if I were sitting across the desk from interviewing an SRO candidate, I'd say, look, you're going to be around a lot of kids that are going to drive you lots and nuts. Yeah. There's going to be days that you're just going to think, what was I thinking? But you got to not express that to the child, right? Particularly in the elementary situations.
Yeah.
And you got to be this role model beyond what every officer we expect to be a role model for. Yeah. So it's a added responsibility.
It is.
And
but important
It will.
responsibility.
And I from the SROs I knew over my time there, and I still have acquaintance with not Ethan, that's his son, Brad Schaefer. Ethan's his son.
Yep.
As a student. They all love the job.
Yeah.
They really feel like not only are they doing great service, but they just really feel connected to the student body, and it's just they love it.
Yeah. And
I'm glad we have a community where both our police and our school district take this seriously, and that we have high level professionalism. At the other round of the commercial, I'm going to ask you what does it take to be hired on to Burleson PD? What do you look for? What kind of qualifications are mandatory? And then I believe we can talk about that training program or the training facility that you're opening up. Yeah. So if you would, Taylor. This is like my B&I group. We have a networking group here in town, and these next 5 sponsors are all from the B&I group. So it's lots of fun. Gala at Southern Gym. Now, you have been there, I'll bet. You know, my wife will be working there pretty soon.
Awesome.
She worked there this summer, and when she leaves the school system, which is coming up, she's going to be working there. It's on the top of the Windmiller building, and they're beginning the process of moving down to the bottom floor once those facilities are taken care of. Yeah. Sorry, got some crumb caught in my throat from my breakfast bar. Anyway, Southern Gym is a great place to go. She's not just a seller of jewelry, she's an expert. Gala has all these credentials and certifications, so you can get the high quality advice and service from her. Also, thank you to HotWorks. Michelle Humphrey will be on in about 3 weeks. She's doing a fundraiser for glioblastoma, for brain cancer. And so she'll be on here talking about that. She likes to do these kind of events for some nonprofit. We got a bunch of nonprofit things going on in September, so you ought to stay tuned for that. But anyway, HotWorks in 731, it's an infrared workout, 11 different styles of workout with the infrared system, so you maximize your workout, a lot less strain on your body. I've had several guests that have been part of it, and they just love it. And so HotWorks on 731 over by Chicken Salad Chick, which is also a very favorite place of my wife. So also, thank you to Creative Concepts by Mandy. Did I give you a coffee cup last time you was here?
You did, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if I did or not, but she was the one that made all these cups and hats and whatever else. So you use that cup during the city council meetings? No, I don't think so. Yeah. Anyway, but Creative Concepts by Mandy, she's over in 1187. If you're looking for promotional items, she can make hats, cups, shirts, pins, you name it. I mean, lots of stuff you don't think of for promotional items. I know several people at Christmas time had her make some wooden boxes, gift boxes, and they were with their logos on it, and it was really, really nice. Also, a couple of new sponsors. One, Melissa Harmon of Texas Farm Bureau. She's now my insurance agent. I'm still in the midst of getting my insurance switched over to her. It's it takes a little process, a little paperwork, but whatnot. But Texas Farm Bureau here in town. She's officed out of Burleson, but she works all over this county. So Melissa Harmon at 682-804-0534. Give her a holler if you're looking to upgrade your insurance. She's saving me money, so there you are. So thank you, Melissa, for your sponsorship. And a new one, Pinnacle Concepts with Danette Juster. She's an interior designer. She dabbles a little bit in commercial real estate as well, if you're looking for that. But she also is trying to expand her interior design business. Danette is also somebody you know, right? Didn't she? I believe she's with the police association. She does volunteer stuff with the police.
She may.
Right.
I'm not familiar.
Oh, well, okay. There's so many of them. But anyway, no, but I know Danette is involved in the chamber and all these other places as well. But she's an interior designer, and she's launching this new venture. So if you're looking to remodel your home, give her a call. She can do all of that for you. So thank you, ladies, for joining on board. I appreciate your confidence. Now, I bet openings other than maybe expansion for Burleson PD are hard to find. I mean, you don't probably have a great deal of turnover on its own, do you?
Not a lot. What we experience more so than anything is somebody that goes to the academy and they either don't make it through the academy or they get out on the field training piece of this, and it's not easy. It's just hard to get you prepared for everything you got to do. So we lose more people in those roles where they either can't finish at the level we need them to finish, or they just finally decide to say, "Hey, I'm not sure this is for me." When you're watching it on TV, it's one thing,
right?
When you get out here and you're doing it in real life, it becomes a very different animal.
What are they experiencing that would cause them to decide at the last minute not to join?
Well, they in these cases they've joined, they've been out and they're going through field training. But
right.
You're handling things that are very dangerous, the domestic violence situations, stopping a vehicle. Imagine in the middle of the night you're stopping a vehicle and you're getting out of your car and walking up to that vehicle, not knowing who that is you're stopping, what they might involved in. Most of the people are just good people. But you never know. So there's, again, when you're looking at this through the eyes through academy, everything, is you're not going to get hurt in the academy, but you get on the streets, it becomes real to people, and all of a sudden they're, it's not easy. Not for everyone.
Some of the situations they're found in are a lot more aggressive and a lot more intense, and what you see on that TV show Cops. I always thought, are they just arresting guys with no shirt? Is that all it takes, is not to wear a shirt and get arrested? But anyway, it's just always somebody. But anyway, I would imagine, though, you have a good number of applicants for every opening because the reputation Burleson Police has, reputation the community has.
Yeah. We've seen a deterioration of applications because every agency, I think there's 71 or more agencies in this area, they're all competing for the same applicant pool.
Really? 71? That's a bunch.
Yeah. So you're competing with everybody. The salaries for our officers have had to increase quite a bit because you're trying to give yourself the competitive edge over somebody else. Now you're seeing an awful lot of signing bonuses for lateral entries or signing. I saw one this morning, just a signing bonus to get you in the door. We're all competing for qualified applicants. We've seen a decline in the number of applications in the last test. For example, I think we had 22 applications was on. We used to get 50 to 60. 22, then a certain percentage, I think it was only 11 that showed up to take the test, 7 passed the test. We were able to get 2 out of that. They started Monday, and they're going to go to the academy. We have got the second application process underway, and they've taken the test. We've had a better, still not up to 50 or 60, but we've had a better response on that one. But then you've got to go through and screen them, and that's what I'm talking about, getting the right person for that. Because, if they're former law enforcement, what is their background over there? Have they had any internal investigation complaints, use of force complaints? Because once we hire them, then we own them for their entire career. They're there. So the character has got to be right. Their integrity. You do not get an integrity day off. And that's the cruel part of our business is that you may have done some great things in your career, but you have a bad moment and if you're untruthful or insubordinate, things like that, you can't testify in court. So you have got to keep your integrity in check.
Right.
And that's important. The citizens, they give us the authority. They give me the authority to run this department. But in return, they expect to be able to trust us through transparency, through our actions and holding accountable the actions of our team.
Do you require any kind of college hours of any kind?
Burleson, since I've gotten here, has had 30 hours college minimum requirement to apply and be hired. We just made a change on that. There was a lot of questions that came out in the military piece of this where if you've served 2 years honorably in the military, do you need the 30 hours of college? And we just recently dropped that to try to, again, increase our application pool. And we're actually starting now, and we've got this team put together and getting the items we need to actually go out and proactively hit these job fairs and these different things for recruitment to get our name out there and talk to them about Burleson and try to do a better job of recruiting since we have seen a decline.
Well, the 3 colleges I've heard that really specialize in criminal justice
Yes.
is Tarleton
Yep.
and UTA and Sam Houston.
Yes.
And I know I teach at Dallas Baptist, and they have a criminal justice program.
Yeah.
Does having a college degree give you an advantage as a police officer?
Let me phrase this. I value the college education. I believe what it does is show some discipline that you are willing to go in and study and get through and go that route. Is that a carte blanche to say that somebody that doesn't have college background could not make a great police officer? Absolutely not.
Right.
But we're looking for some discipline on that, and then you can't devalue. And this is one of the problems we're having on these folks that we've hired. They're leaving. They have had some time to mature. Because I think Harvard says the brain's not fully developed until you're 26 years old. But at 21 years old, we are asking a police officer to do all of these things and make a mature decision that I might make with 38 years of experience. So what we're finding is that they don't have prior life experience. They don't have things that they've done that help them, interact with people and have a social piece of this. That is very beneficial for us hiring them, because when they get out on the street, they're dealing with, a robust social environment that you have to be able to interact. These millennials in this day and time want to pull a police car over. They want to text up there and say, hey, take a picture of your driver's license, send it back to me, text you a picture of the ticket, and then see you later. And you've got to have that interaction, and you've got to be able to control and de-escalate an environment from a volatile situation.
Now, if you want to, though, advance in the department, though. Don't you need more college hours for
We
that?
do. We step that up, and so that we have and there is a path when you go through this, and you can go, and the city has a tuition reimbursement with online courses. That's great. You can do that, and I got my master's while I was working full time.
Where'd you get it from?
BPD, Tarleton State.
Tarleton, yeah,
Talk
right.
about Tarleton State.
Tarleton represent.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Hey.
Well, it's interesting because I teach some classes where some of the students want to go into criminal justice, and you can hear our friends upstairs, can't you? Well,
we can.
Yeah, it's all right. Well, you can go up, flash a badge, or they'll send Taylor up there to give them a whooping. But we have a couple other comments. Jackie Jones says, hiring you, Mr. Cordell, Chief Cordell, is the best decision City of Burleson's ever made.
Wow. Thank you, Jackie. I appreciate that.
That's very kind.
It is.
But, I know some of these officers want to become detectives, they want to become officers of rank and whatever else. So that is a requirement to have some.
Yeah. We're about, if council approves the budget, we're going to start inserting a lieutenant's rank in our department. We need to get a little bit more upper staff. We put a lot into our boots on the ground staff, which is what our citizens see on a regular basis, and that is extremely important. But now we've got to be able to divide some of these responsibilities that the admin is doing and develop them out. So we've got a 45-hour college requirement for you to be appointed to the lieutenant's rank, and then that graduates up the higher in the organization you go.
Yes, and I also, when I was getting my master's at UTA a long time ago, back 30 years ago, I was getting into political science, but they had a lot of criminal justice people in the department, in the classes, because they could transfer over and all this other stuff. And I remember one semester, I sat next to the chief of police of Arlington, and I thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah. Very interesting perspective when we had these discussions. But I know that the background checks and the integrity checks and whatnot are strenuous to get on this force. It isn't like you're hiring anybody that's just willing to do it. You're going to have a lot of high standards to meet. Yeah. And I've seen that all my time here in Burleson. I've always really appreciated that. Now, once they get hired, what kind of training are you able to give them? And also this new facility, what do you hope to give them? Well,
great question, and I appreciate it. So, when you hire somebody that has not been to the academy, so we just went through the application process. You may have a month invested on that, and we give a job application to the two we just gave the job application to. They started. We'll start them with policy and getting to know the department a little bit more. And then at that point, they'll go to the academy, and that's, I think, 22 weeks that they spend in the academy learning everything.
Where is this academy, by the way?
We use COG. There's several of them. TCC has one. We use the COG Academy. So they'll go through that. They graduate out of there. Then they'll come back to the PD. They'll start learning more policies and a lot of different things that they've got to know of how to do things in Burleson, because the academy doesn't teach them Burleson policy. It doesn't teach them Burleson ordinances. It's a generalized academy to get you through the TCO requirements. So they'll come back here and they'll start learning policy, and then they'll go into field training, what we call field training, where they'll stay with the training officer on, say, day shift, and then they'll rotate 30 days later to evenings and then to midnights. Everything goes well, then they get into a ghost phase with a supervisor, where supervisor will wear plain clothes, and the officer will go out there and they have to handle everything to be solo status. Now, it's normal to extend some of the trainings if you're struggling with geography, for example, or traffic stops or domestics or taking command of a situation, to extend that training. So what I'm getting at is, from the minute we post that test till we actually realize a solo status officer, meaning they grab the keys and go out and start patrolling an area themselves, you're talking about 10 months to 11 months.
Yeah,
that's important distinction, because you're trying to get through and hire, competing with everybody else, and get people in the academy and get them through all of those stages to be a solo officer. And you don't just come in and train them one day. This is a long process, and it hurts when they don't. When they resign before they're finished with that, and we haven't realized the return in our investment. So there's a lot to it.
Well, here's a question. I don't know if I prepared you to answer, but there's a tremendous amount of stress on police officers, and sometimes it's hard to turn that off. Does the city of Burleson, provide some sort of service, counseling, whatever you want to call it, for police officers that are having to deal with these high stress situations?
Mental health is one of the challenges with every agency,
Right.
you know, and I'll go back to, you know, I've been in this 38 years, and I go back to my young days in Fort Worth, and there was nobody to provide counseling. Nobody tried to say, the sergeant, you know, you didn't go to the sergeant and say, I'm struggling with what I just saw, and you may have seen something horrible. You just, you know, it's that suck it up, buttercup, and go answer another call mentality. Fortunately, our profession has changed considerably since those days to where we do have employee assistance programs through the city. We have other counselors that, depending on the nature of what it is, we can send them to. The BPD will pay for them to go through counseling. We don't hear back from them what the stuff is. We just hear, yes, they're coming to the counseling, we're making progress, or, you know, and those things. Wellness is a huge thing. When you talked about what training we're putting together and what in this new facility that we're looking at, you know, things that we would have never done before, you know, a quiet room. You know, you had a bad call, you had a stressful call. You just need to go somewhere that's quiet, close your eyes, de-stress for a little while, and process some of that before you go back out on the street to
Right.
go.
I just wondered if there was ways that they can release this kind of tension without taking it home with them, because I'm sure, you know, as your wife will probably well attest, when somebody serves as a police officer, the family serves.
Yes.
And and they all make
question.
sacrifices.
No question. I mean, whether you're working shift work, I mean, some things as simple as that's very, very stressful on a family. And, you know, to look out for the wellness of everyone is one of the biggest things that we can do. And there's a lot of different avenues out there that we can refer people to.
Well, I hope so, because, you know, you see stuff in the news or television or whatever else you want to call it, and it just like having to carry that and not release it in appropriate ways, it probably leads to certain problems, and, you know, drug, alcohol abuse, whatever you want to use.
Sure.
And I'm glad that we take steps to try to keep that from happening.
Yeah.
It's because you know, they say teaching is a stressful job. Well, not like a police officer's. You know, I mean, there's stressful days and whatever else, and some days you really, you know, think you're crazy for what you're doing, but it isn't like a police officer's where every day could be like that. And we were talking earlier before the show that we're not in Mayberry here in Burleson. We're what's happening with the situation crime-wise, shall we say, in Burleson?
Well, I mean, when you look at the crime, we're not on a steep upward hill. You know, we evaluate crime from all different areas of that. You know, we've got some increases here and there. And you say 2, 3, 10% increase in robberies, for example. We don't have as many robberies as we have other things like burglary, motor vehicle, and theft. Theft's always your highest one, probably in any city USA. So, you know, if you're dividing that out and looking at a percentage, I try not to just look at a percentage, because, you know, if you've had 5 robberies and all of a sudden you get 2, your percentages goes way up. But if you had 400 burglary motor vehicles and you get 2, it's not near. So you can't just look at the percentage and say we've had a 50% increase. You know, homicides. You know, we've got a decrease in homicides, but we had one recently, a very tragic deal where Miss Bryan was killed.
Right.
But you know, you go back in and you look at kind of analyze what is actually happening, and, you know, how many of those are violent, how many of them are you know, property crimes, and what can we do to prevent those? You know, there's so many of our burglary motor vehicles are parked out on the street with valuables in them, and they're unlocked. I mean, you should be able to be secure in that, but you're not. You know?
Well, does the crime that goes on in other cities, particularly Fort Worth, spill over into Burleson?
I think you always have. We don't, you know, the criminals don't operate off of city boundaries. So yes, you do get some of that, and I think you probably see more of that in the property crimes. But, you know, when you go back to this homicide, none of those people involved in that, the 6 suspects that were involved in that, nor the victim of this, lived in Burleson city limits. You know, this is just where they ended up meeting, and that's where it all spilled over into our city. So, you know, it doesn't follow a city boundary, and yes, we do get some spillage from other areas, but, you know, we have our own as well.
Well, some of the contention has been that as Burleson's grown and as the communities around us have grown, their crime problems have become our problems. And I don't know if that's valid or not, whether or not, because Fort Worth may be having crime increases in all sorts of problems, homelessness and all this, that it's a problem that's affecting us. And I don't know if that's a valid viewpoint or not, but I do have a couple here. One is Bless the Badge Ministries is a wonderful resource.
Yes.
You know,
Lisa. Yeah.
Yeah. And also Betty Arbor says, what is the best way for citizens to express their support for our officers?
Well, I mean, thank you, Betty, for that question. And I know you're an avid supporter of ours. I see you on our Facebook page all the time commenting, We have on our Facebook page, we have about 44,000 followers.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, it's incredible. While not everybody loves us, we get that. but there's so many people, that and Betty is a prime example of that. They come on there and compliment and say thank you for what you're doing and protecting us. Those mean a lot. You see an officer out there, just tell them thank you, and we get that a lot. This community, one of the things I love about Burleson is there's a community as a whole. They support us wholeheartedly, and it's a great environment to work in. I tell that when we have these people coming in and interviewing for jobs. That's one of the things I said you're going to love about Burleson is this community supports its first responders and especially its police department.
Is there like a fund they can contribute to?
Okay, so we have the Burleson Police Foundation was created in 2016. This is a group of board members that I put together, the original 5, and then we've expanded some since that. The mission of the Burleson Police Foundation is threefold. It's to support our annual awards banquet honoring the outstanding service of our officers. It is also supporting training, and we want to talk more about training and equipment over and beyond what the city budget affords to make sure that our officers have the tools that they need to do the job out there. They bought us our first drone. We wanted to go down the drone program. They dropped about $20,000 to get a drone program, and that has been a phenomenal asset for us to have. And training, sending officers to mental health training, bringing people in and going to mental health training to help our officers understand that dynamic. Use of force, de-escalation, all of these type things are so important. The foundation augments that. It's managed by a board of directors that throughout the city that are very reputable folks and do a great job of doing that. So that's one place that you can donate to.
As we're coming close on time here, you'll see an increase in crime in the summer.
You typically, crime runs in its cycles.
Right.
So in the summertime, when the school's out, we will see increases in property crimes, vandalism, those types of things. School gets back in, we see a little drop off on that, but as we get into the holidays, typically, and I'm speaking more Fort Worth in here, we don't have as many, but robberies and different types of crimes will start increasing around the holidays, and unfortunately we see a lot of suicides and problems in the holidays. Yeah.
Because I'd like to have you back on right before Thanksgiving, if that's possible.
Excellent.
And talk about that very thing, because there's a lot of emotional and financial stress at the holidays, and I wonder if that carries over into crime rates and things of that nature. And I'm sure there's a lot of property theft, shoplifting, things of that nature. Yeah. So we'll pencil you in for sometime like in early November if you can squeeze us in.
Sounds great.
Taylor, we have a few nonprofits. I'd like to.
Yeah, Brad posted the
Brad Griffin
Foundation.
Yeah, there you did. I'd like to put a couple on there. Do we have the some of the stuff that's going on, like the ASD golf tournament and things? I kind of threw that at him at the last minute, and I'm sorry to do that, but it just occurred to me I needed to make sure we had this going on. The Center for ASD next Friday, a week from tomorrow, is going to have their ASD golf tournament. And if you're interested in participating or sponsoring, it's still there. For you, it's $100 per player, $400 for a team of 4. They're regular guests on the show. Lisa and Bianca are wonderful women, and they do a great job. And so they have all these various things going on. So it's over at Hidden Creek. And so check into that, the Center for ASD website for that. I think we have one other, do we not? Yes, RISE, the Mental Health Conference. I don't know if you've heard this, but they're having it over Pathway in about 5 weeks from now, October 8th. And it's going to be several speakers, several people that are going to be offering connections to mental health services. They're going to have like programs that are going to be, you'll get an idea what that they serve, who they serve, whatever. Sarah Nicole Tynan is putting this together, and she'll be on the show in about a month, about 2 weeks before this thing goes on. So we'll have an opportunity to talk with her again. I believe there's also one for Harvest House. The Harvest Feast is coming up on September 17th, which is a big deal.
I don't have that, but I'll put the logo up.
Well, I don't think we have a logo for the feast itself, but we do have Harvest House. She was on Monday and was talking about this, and it's a big fundraiser. There's a lot of money that is needed and a lot of money that's given to this community. On September 22nd, which is North Texas Giving Day, I'm going to have like 5 or 6 of these representatives, and they're going to be sitting in that seat, and we're going to be just rotating them like speed dating, I guess, and have them give a few minutes about what they do and what they use the money for. And I'm sure you see this quite often in your line of work, just how many of these people give of themselves.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
You know, I'm particularly fond of the ones that have come on the show. Next Step Women's Center is another one I'm very fond of. You know, so there's a bunch.
Yeah.
And so this is a busy time of year for everybody.
It is.
A good time to give, though. And
And hey, let me get a plug in. National Night Out's coming up October the 4th.
okay.
You know, it's connecting with our community. I know the mayor and I are going to be putting a little short video reminding everybody October the 4th. So we have a lot of neighborhoods that will get out, meet your neighbors, interact with the police. We'll get by there with our officers to say hi and just interact a little bit. So that's always an important and a fun event.
Yes. I guess it was an opportunity to go on a date with your beloved spouse or something? Or
Well,
your
she has. She has. Last year, my beloved spouse was the mayor, so.
Yeah, well, there you go. There you go. So that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You know, we're coming close on time, so I'd like you to give the last word about what you want the listeners in the community to know about Burleson Police.
Well, I appreciate that and appreciate always the opportunity to come on. Sure. You know, we've got a lot of things going on. Right now, we've contracted with a company called Matrix Consulting, and we are doing a staffing analysis for the Burleson Police Department, projecting that out for about 20 years. So we've got that coming up in probably late November, early December. We'll get the results of that, and that's an important piece for the future. We're also in the process of selecting the architect from the bond package and the facility build, and start looking in all of those. We've been touring a lot of facilities around just to see the latest and the greatest. One of the things that has been my passion for this department, one of the things that frankly we lack and we've got to get better at, is training. You've heard me talk about training, and this new facility is going to put hopefully a lot of different things in place for training our officers. And I think these officers and the new hires, this is recruitment and retention. They want to come in and see where they're trained. And there's national associations that have verified that, yes, a great training center can increase and improve your recruitment and retention. We visited Round Rock Tuesday, has a incredible training center, and the assistant chief that's over that said exactly that. But, you know, we've got a lot of exciting things going as we're preparing this department to move forward in the future to continue to serve this city as this city grows. And, you know, we've got to put things in place where we are properly training them and getting them prepared for any changes like we've talked about, whether it be active shooter, de-escalation, how to handle any number of calls that we go on a regular basis. But also to just put us in position that Burleson is a destination place. We pay the right amount of money. We've got the facilities that accommodate your training, and we're going to prepare you to be a solo officer on the streets of Burleson.
Well, we appreciate your service. We appreciate the security you provide this town, the quality of the officers, the men and women that serve on our department. It's I know I talked to Shandy, the real estate girl. Not girl, she's no girls. Yeah, they're always young to me, so you know it is real estate lady. But she says one of the biggest things that the people who look for in a home is schools and crime rates and security. And I think we have done a really, really good job in providing both of those things, and that's to your credit, sir. And Monday, Labor Day, Taylor and I are going to take the day off. Is that right, Taylor?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, no, we're going to have to take Labor Day off. But on Tuesday, we have Karina Daniels on with the Chamber. And then a week from today, I'm going to have my new sponsor, Melissa Harmon, who also has got a nonprofit that she's working for. Besides selling insurance, she also has a shelter of sorts that she supports in Fort Worth. And we're going to be talking about that. And then also some insurance stuff because it's confusing. But anyway, thank you, Chief, for being here.
Absolutely.
And y'all take care and have a good Labor Day weekend.